Hi everybody and welcome to the anime G.B.U, where I take a look at an anime series and I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today I'm at a bit of a conundrum. See, the series that I want to talk about today is actually completed, at least the English version, the English dub version anyway is, courtesy of Funimation, yet the series is still continuing over in Japan. Yet, it was only 5 seasons over here, but it's a complete series by our terms in the English dub. So, I'm at a loss as to how I want to go about doing this. Mostly because I don't know how to take this one. Now, as much as I would love to just go, well, I'm just going to talk about it in general, I want to be careful how I word this one. Because, as I said, it's still going. So, how do I do this? Well, I'm just going to talk about the English dub, because that's the only one that I've really seen of it so far. So, today I'm going to be talking about Case Closed, or Detective Conan for those of you who know it from Japan. That's today on the anime G.B.U. Alright, so way back when I was still in high school or middle school, Case Closed premiered on Adult Swim, and honestly, I thought it was an interesting show. The whole premise of it really struck me as cool and intriguing, and at the same time, extremely interesting. And since I didn't have access to the internet back then, I had no idea how big this thing was. It was basically a Sherlock Holmes style anime series, but it was set as a detective series, dealing with kids and teenagers as the detectives, with the adults taking somewhat of a back seat. Honestly, I enjoyed it. And I found out that it was 5 seasons long here in the US because Funimation decided to drop the ball on it. I still haven't forgiven them for that one either. But basically, here's the premise. Jimmy Kudo is an ace detective, and by ace detective I mean he's showing up the city's finest. Even the cops call his ass in to help them. His girlfriend, Rachel Moore, is basically the daughter of a private investigator known as Richard Moore, who used to be a police officer until he decided to become a detective because I guess he thought it would help him get girls a lot easier. The guy's an idiot. Through and through, he's an idiot. Basically, after sticking his nose where it wasn't really welcome, Jimmy Kudo is supposedly killed. Although in actuality, all that happens is he's basically, well, turned into a kid. Quickly having to come up with a new identity after he's busted while in his own home with Dr. Agasa, his next door neighbor, Rachel discovers him and quickly coming up with the name Conan Edogawa. Yes, based off of 2 authors of literature, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and somebody with the last name of Edogawa. I remember it being in the book spine and the shot, but I don't remember what the author's first name was. But I know Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, after finding out that he's basically a relative, friend, what have you, of the Kudos, he's basically allowed to go and stay with Rachel because Dr. Agasa won't have it. Well, basically, at first he was Dr. Agasa's, I guess, how did they word it? Relation. And then when she met Jimmy's mom again, she goes, oh yes, Dr. Agasa and us are related, to make the story stick because the story was flimsy as all hell. Basically put, the story gets really weird. So, while basically being your standard kid detective and trying to help Richard Moore solve cases to make him into a better detective in order to find out clues as to the people who poisoned him and turned him into a kid so we can get a copy of the antidote so that Dr. Agasa, the copy of the poison, so Dr. Agasa can make an antidote, he stays with Richard and Rachel helping to solve crimes, your basic crime of the week sort of series. And it went so beautifully well until it just ended in season 5. Which wasn't even the full season Funimation. Oh boy, this is going to be a good one. Anyway, That's about it for the premise. He's basically a detective. We meet up with some other characters in this, like Inspector McGuire, Dr. Agasso, who I've already mentioned, Booker Kudo, who's Jimmy's father, Vivian Kudo, who's his mother, Serena Sebastian, which is Rachel's friend, and Conan's friendly little elementary school chums that he's forced to be with because he's got to go to elementary school, in the form of George, Amy, and Mitch. If you watch some of the movies, which came out in English dub, thank you, they actually have another one that joins them by the name of Vi. She's actually the scientist who created or helped to create the poison that turned Jimmy into a kid. Thinking it was going to kill her, she took some herself and turned into a little girl who now lives with Dr. Agasa. Because that's not creepy. But since she's a scientist, she is helping out a lot, and she's highly intelligent. Although she definitely has some personality issues. Some of this can be seen in some of the movies, which I'll talk about at a later date because I have to watch them all again. Well, I have to watch all but 3 because I own 3 of them. I own the 13th Target, the Time Bomb Skyscraper, and the Phantom of Baker Street. Oh, do I love the Phantom of Baker Street. That's one of my favorites. Ah, yes. Anyway, might as well get in and dive into this one, so let's get into the G.B.U, shall we? So what's good, bad, and ugly about this? Well, let's start with the good. For starters, it's a series. It's a mystery series, and I always love those. They're interesting, unique, and honestly, I get a kick out of them. Now, honestly, though, it does have some problems, and I won't deny that. But the goodness that it has is outweighed. There are some comedic moments, especially when Jimmy's forced to pretend he's a kid and hanging out with Amy, Mitchell, and George. Mostly that annoys the living crap out of them. Not them, the kids, Conan, a.k.a. Jimmy. There's a basic little love triangle-esque thing going on here. See, Mitch and George each like Amy, but Amy really likes Conan. I mean, really likes Conan. We're talking like Conan here. Yeah, she'd basically take a bullet for the kid if she thinks it would get her one step closer to him saying, "I love you, Amy." I'm not even joking. And Conan actually will protect them, even at the cost of his own life if need be. So it's actually a neat little camaraderie there. Plus, they also get to become junior detectives because Dr. Agasa creates a badge for each of them. So they basically become their own little detective squad. And get into trouble, but solve some cases and get into trouble. They just get into a lot of trouble. But because they're kids, think of them sort of like the Baker Street Irregulars from the Sherlock Holmes stories, but with a more prominent approach. In fact, to be the final episode of the English dubbed version of the series, the Disappearing Weather Girl actually had them solving the crime, so that was really impressive. However, the goodness is quickly outshined. Now, yes, there are some interesting plots to this, and I'll get into them, but for more of the good stuff, you do have your wide range of characters, which I do like. You have Richard Moore, who's your basic bumbling detective, but has a good-natured heart at the same time. One of the episodes, Richard's Class Reunion, Part 1 and 2, he's actually trying to solve the murder of his classmate on his own, and even Jimmy respects that, realizing that this isn't a time to use my gadgets to knock the old man out and actually, well, solve the crime myself. He wants to solve it on his own because he thinks that would help make amends for his friend dying. And honestly, it does. Richard feels a lot better, but a little more depressed at the same time. There's another episode, too, where Jimmy has to basically pull Richard's ass out of the fire, quite literally. See, there was a person that faked the murder and tried his damnedest to escape using Richard Moore as the cover. However, Conan quickly figured it out and, well, his plan was foiled. And that's one of the neat things that I like about this series, too. And another one of the good points is that the mysteries aren't exactly hard to solve, but they're not exactly brainbusters either. I mean, you're not going to scratch your head going, how the hell did they do that? But at the same time, you're going, okay, that makes sense as they explain it to you. Now, there was one time I actually was close to solving the mystery. I was just off. I had the wrong generation, as it were. I thought it was the mom that did it, but it turned out to be the son. Honestly, I wasn't too far off, but still, I wasn't too far off. I should get credit for that. There are some really good notable episodes, too, like the Moonlight Sonata Murder, there was a good one. Oh, the Phantom Thief one. The hell was the name? I think that was, there's the Phantom Kid Thief, the Night Baron Mysteries. It was a 3-parter that was really good, taking place at a hotel, which is really entertaining. Let's see. Oh, definitely Richard's Class Reunion, Part 1 and 2. There's just so many of them that actually were memorable, and some that were actually quite good. However, there are some horrible episodes, too, and the fact that Funimation just stopped at the end of, not even at the end of Season 5, I'll get into it. That's pretty much all I got for the good. Now for the bad. Plot-wise, the story is all over the damn place. It goes from the A plot of Jimmy Kudo wanting to get his body back to the B plot of I have to pretend to be a kid, back to the A plot for about 5 seconds before it shoots into the C plot of, hey, Richard Moore is a detective, I have to make him look good, but that's part of the A plot, but the A plot's just about me. Yeah. Not to mention the fact that there's the constant love triangle that we have to deal with throughout everything. As I mentioned with Amy wanting to have Conan all to herself, since Conan is actually Jimmy Kudo, he still has feelings for Rachel, feelings that he never could express. In one episode, when he was brought back to his teenage form due to a cold and sucking down some Chinese gin, which Rachel caught him after he got better, he basically wanted to say the words from his mouth, not Conan's, trying to fight off the reversion back into his, childlike form. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to. Realizing that the drug may have been able to be counteracted by the gin, he quickly tried drinking it after the following episode, which, to note here, was also not shown on Adult Swim. Yeah, here's where the bad really starts to shine on this. See, there are about 51, 52 episodes in Season 1. And we stopped after the 2-part episode where Jimmy Kudo's returned to his teenage form because he's sick and drinks the alcohol. The next episode, having to deal with the library and some bookcases, was never shown on television. In fact, I didn't even know about it until I bought the one season on DVD. And hell, I didn't even get most of the seasons right away on DVD. I ended up getting the singled out disc that had like 3 episodes. And one of them teased the Night Baron Mysteries, which I really wanted to see. Phantom Kid things, Phantom Kid 413 or something, or 1313, I don't know. But some of those episodes were also teasing these singled out DVDs, which was a huge thing back then. I say back then like I'm ancient, but it basically was a while back. However, the badness, though, continues into the ugly. But as far as bad goes, plot-wise, it was fine. Your standard crime of the week, sometimes a double helping if it was a continuation of an episode. Some of the crimes weren't that difficult to solve, but some were a bit on the harder side, but still reasonable, like I said. And that's about it for the bad. Getting into the ugly, however, I start off with this. One too many characters that reoccur. You have Harley Hartwell, who's basically your Kudo of the West, as he calls himself. An annoying little pain in the ass, but still quite interesting nonetheless. You have the Junior Detective League, basically consisting of Mitch, George, Amy, and eventually Vi, who gets forcibly dragged into the group because, hey, she's brought along for the ride. Although we never actually get to see this outside of the movies, but when am I going to talk about her and the general concept of the rest of them? Because I haven't seen all the Japanese ones. Mostly because there's a lot of episodes. A lot of episodes. I'm not joking. It's still going yet in Japan. Currently, it's still airing. I can't even tell you what episode it's up to be honest with you. But anyway, it's still airing in Japan, so that's a while to go. But it gets so much worse. My biggest complaint with this, and I'm talking about the English dub here, mind you, is the fact that you have to have the freaking series stop. On a filler episode, no less. The English dub of Case Closed technically ends in Season 5, though it's not even the complete 5th season either, because if you Wikipedia this thing, it's actually proven that it continues because in Season 5 is when Vi actually shows up. No, the episode that the series ends in that Funimation decided to yank the budget away, say, we're done, wrap it up, pack it up, go home, was the disappearing weather girl. That's the final episode you get. We had a ton of beautiful episodes up to this point. You had a knockoff Godzilla that basically was part of a murder investigation. You have some heroes that are basically being turned into villains in the form of Masked Yaiba, the kids' favorite superheroes. There's an episode where Amy gets kidnapped, but it's apparently by some actors, or she gets into their car to hide and seek with Conan and the rest of them. So many things that were so good about this series brought to a screeching halt by the fact that it just abruptly ends. Yet, as I said, still continuing over in Japan. Now, happily, Funimation did pull their heads out of their ass for us to at least get the DVDs of the movies to be shown in English dub, so that's a decent thing. At least up to Phantom of Baker Street. I don't know past there because I haven't gotten any of those yet. And honestly, those are a wonderful, wonderful escape from the individuality that we had, basically, of the series as a whole. The series is good, but Funimation just screwed the pooch on it. My final verdict for Case Closed is this. Truthfully, it's a good series. I recommend checking it out. It's really fun. It's really worth your time. Some of the murders and some of the cases in it are actually quite good. And if you're into this type of thing, you've probably already checked out like Ace Attorney or Phoenix Wright stuff, things like that. And honestly, it's basically the same thing, only no courtroom. Yeah, it's a decent series. I recommend it. Highly recommend it. Though if you want to check it out in its entirety, you better get used to subtitles, because that's the only way you're going to be seeing the newer episodes. Hell, I don't even know how it ends. I don't even think they know how it ends yet. The manga's still going, the anime's still going, and it's ended here in the English dub. So it's still going Japanese audio with the English subtitles. So if you want to watch it, your best bet's to check it out online, because it's the only way you can. Thank you again, Funimation, for screwing us over. Anyway, my final verdict, as I said, I highly recommend it. Check it out. It's well worth your time. And until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been the Anime G.B.U. Bye, everybody.